I'm Chris Ball and welcome to the second part in the new Gardner video series, Baitwise. You'll already have seen in part one that we've got a whole host of famous celebrity carp anglers all lined up with their own individual views and ideas on bait. We have Ron Buss from Richworth, Martin Lott from Solar, Richard Farnan from Carp Company, madcap Derrick Ritchie from Mainline, and Ian Russell. Also from an independent viewpoint, we have Theo and Johnny from Belgium, and Tim Paisley and Frank Warwick. We'll be covering subjects such as flavours, colours, size of baits, nutritional value, pop-ups, soaks, dips and much. Making a call on Lee Jackson, who we sent on that mission to Unity Lake, a water he's never seen before, to see how his session there ended. But right now, let's start off with Derrick Ritchie, who was into action at his local water in a most spectacular way. Derrick, of course, is well known for his association with Mainline, and he'll be popping up from time to time to give us some of his top bait tips. Derrick had cast hard into the snags for this fish and had almost, luck would have it, his other rod took off. Oh, the Don's in trouble now. A rod in each hand and two fish hell-bent on making it back into the snags. Now, how's that for teamwork? Good job the cameraman's a carp angler, for he nets the first fish, leaving Derrick to deal with the second.
Go on, Gab. What can I say? Two takes at once. You've seen it. Here we are. This is what it's all about. What I've got to do now is be nice and gentle to the fish. So I'm going to try and unhook the first one while it's still in the net, and then we're going to sort out the one that's underneath. As you can see, we're having lots of fun with these fish, trying to unhook them in the net, and obviously it's not working because they're still a little bit frisky. So there's only one thing to do, bite the two lines. That's the mates, look at them. Yes, double take. That's Parker. That's the way to do it. Go on.
Well, that was a good start from the Don, and now we're going over to that deadly duo from Belgium, Theo and Johnny, to talk with them about their baiting policies on the big Belgian waters. Luckily enough, they visited the UK recently, where I teamed up with them at Linear Fisheries. And here's Theo and Johnny. First of all, welcome to the UK.
Okay, welcome, Chris. Thank you.
Because the last time we met was some time ago. Last year it was, of course, in Belgium. So you're most welcome over here and catching fish, eh?
Yes.
And already. Already.
Yeah.
Caught fish.
It's really lovely fish.
That's right. Now, we've been talking earlier on. I mean, it's just unbelievable, some of these catches that you've had. A lot of them happened after we left, wasn't it, last year?
Yeah.
And you just ran. Just give us some idea. First of all, you, Johnny, I mean, that October period was just like a bonanza, wasn't it?
Yeah. But my friend Theo, he caught a lot of fish. I was more catching them on the canal.
Mm-hmm.
So I caught about 9 30ers and
Right.
4 40ers.
Right.
So I caught about 27 fish.
27 fish. Now, a lot of the big fish came from the lake that we actually were at in Belgium, wasn't it? And in one night, is that correct? Just tell us this incredible catch of 4 40-pounders in one night.
Yeah.
Gee, you must have been exhausted.
Yeah. But I was 2 weeks pre-baiting
Right,
before fishing there. Not the same spot.
right. And suddenly the big fish were
And
there.
The fish were there, yeah.
Gee, but I mean, I think it was the 16th of October. That must have been a magic night, because I believe you caught other fish as well.
Yeah, that was on another lake, 16
Right.
October.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was pre-baiting on 2 lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second session with the 11 fish and the 440s was on the other
Right.
lake.
Right. Did you lose any fish? Did you land everything?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
you lost fish, so you had more bites even than that.
The first session I lost my 2 biggest fish. I
Right.
saw them and they're gonna get fished, swimmed away
Right.
under the trees, and there are some mussels
Right.
on the branches and snack off.
I bet one of them was an even bigger common carp, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a 50-pounder coming.
Gee. And you actually saw it, yeah?
Yeah. Saw it under the
Yeah.
boat. I was with the boat deployed under the trees
Heartbreaking, yeah.
and came upwards.
I bet you. I mean, it was really, when we left, it was on the eve of when these catches really started. And it's still that same proven method that you're doing, still this big baiting campaign, right? I mean,
You believe in that, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you believe that's right. I mean, just give us an idea at that stage how much bait you were putting in, approximately.
Well, at that time I was pre-baiting on 2 places together, where I
Yes.
said 2 lakes. On each lake I put in 3 kilos tiger nuts,
Yes.
and also 3 kilos of boilies on each place
Right.
every day,
Right.
and that for 2 weeks, and then starting fishing.
Right.
So it was
And
a lot of-
it's the same thing still. I'm laughing a little here because I remember last time when I said, have you got a life? You remember? Because it just seemed to be revolving around making bait, putting it in, and that really worked, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you still produced in that period, I guess, a mountain of bait.
Yeah.
And you still do it together, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you work for it, you get the results.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Who's the best one at making bait out of you two?
That's making
Ma-
bait.
ma-
He's the fastest.
He's the fastest,
Yeah,
is he?
he's the fastest.
He's
Yeah, but
better,
I-
he's smarter than me.
Yeah, but are they nice and round and?
Yeah, not so one with mine. I take more patience to make him.
Right.
He's faster. But it doesn't matter. to catch him.
We don't care. We do it about so long time and you get used to it no more.
No, nothing streaming off.
It's like we are almost married to make boilies.
Yeah, I can imagine. I tell you what, you're telling me earlier on, I know we were talking about some of the catches from last year. Already this year, I know, Theo, you've caught some, Johnny, sorry, you've caught some wonderful big fish already this year.
Yes.
I mean, fished over 40 pounds?
4 fish over 40 pounds, yeah.
Wow, already this year.
And nine the big 30s,
Right,
heavy 30s, yeah.
right. The waters you're fishing at the moment, has it got that elusive 50-pounder in? You say you've lost one.
No, it's canals where you fish.
canal. Oh,
Canals,
right.
I've been...
And they have the really
Yeah.
Big fish.
I think it's going to be, last of this year, it's going to be more than 60 pounds, I think.
Really,
I'm going for
Yeah.
that,
yeah. Is this mirrors as well as commons?
yeah.
Most of it are commons. The biggest
The
one
biggest
are the
one is
commons.
the common, yeah.
Right.
Mega fish, mega.
There's one in, I've got to say about this one fish, when I first saw the Talented advert with this, well, there was a number of big fish in there featured from the pair of you, but there was a fantastic long fish, the common carp, absolute beauty. And I saw earlier on a picture you showed me from when it had grown from what weight?
It was weight from, I know that fish from 89 still. It was then, it was...
So 1989, yeah.
Yeah, 1989.
Yeah,
It was about 20 pounds,
right.
and now it's more than 46.
Amazing, but the proportions of the fish are just perfect. It's got the length, and it's very much like a redmire fish, redmire bullfish. You know, they're level in the middle part of the body. You know, tremendous fish to catch. And did that come out not in that 4 in one night? Did it?
Yeah, on the last one, on the other gravel pit.
Did it?
Yeah.
Gee, you must have been exhausted.
Yeah, that night.
Yeah,
I should
he
think.
called me in the morning, he was almost dead.
But I was glad
Couldn't
exhausted.
believe it.
Yeah, that's right, glad exhausted. Yeah, I mean, the photo session alone must have taken up
Yeah.
a fair amount of time. That surely must rate as one of your best catches ever
Yeah.
in that night.
Yeah.
2 nights from the last year that I never did that before.
Right.
He had 7 fish that night. He called me in the morning,
Mhm.
and the time I was there, we got 4 rods. He caught 4 fish more.
Mhm.
We couldn't. The one rod went, the other one went.
Yeah.
With 2 rods we were playing, and he was playing one.
Gee.
He couldn't believe
Yeah,
it.
and these were big fish too. Yeah,
All big fish.
all the big
All
fish.
big fish.
Wow. Tell me, in the canals, you're saying, is the baiting strategy the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have the place and you can, but there's more people to fish
You
there.
have to watch on the canals that nobody sees where you're pre-baiting, but otherwise,
Right.
you know, you got good fishermen and bad fishermen, you know.
Yeah, sure, that's right. And people coming along maybe just sort of nicking in there. So how do you do it? Do you bait up at night?
At
or
night, yeah,
so
mostly at night, nobody sees it. And but
right.
if they know we're sitting somewhere, they always think we catch big fish.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and suddenly you find them there next time. Nothing changes. It's the same in the UK, I can tell you.
Everyone, that's normal.
That's
right.
normal. That's normal that some guy only one from 20 pounds and we. But if they work for it,
Yeah,
maybe if in a few years they catch them also.
yeah, that's right. So since you've been here, I've got to ask you, have you been making any bait?
Yes, yes, we make bait, yeah.
So you brought some over, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you use you air dry them? I mean, generally, what
Yeah,
I mean, I
just
guess
dry
you're
them in the
making.
air, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're making so much. You're making them, letting them
you-
dry and then put them in. Yeah.
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 So is it still a mixture with a bit of particles in as well? You're saying about tiger nuts?
Tiger nuts and also a bird mix and a fish mix.
Right.
But we brought too many with us because England is another type of fisher,
Yeah.
Yes.
fishing.
Yeah.
It's more like a little bit in there and otherwise you spook the fish.
Right.
We brought a lot of bait with us.
But it's too much.
I think maybe 100 kilo boilies, yeah. For
Really, 100 kilos,
it's,
gee.
it's too much, but we didn't know how. If we could talk to somebody before we came,
Yeah.
then we had to make sure we have enough, you know.
Yeah. I
Better
think
enough than.
Better enough.
you've got enough. All right. Yeah. I think
got enough.
I think you've got plenty. Well, you've already off the mark with a nice fish already, and you're here for a few more days. So I think you're going to catch some more. It's a nice lake, that Hardwick
they'll
Lake.
come.
We hope so.
Yeah. Make sure you catch more than Frank Warwick. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. We're gonna try and do our best.
Well, that's great. Well, yesterday the weather was nice. Today it's not quite so nice, but I'm sure throughout your stay it'll be great. And it's really nice to see you again and to hear about the successes. I mean, you were successful before and you're still successful now, and they're still smiling. Look at the pair of them.
That's the way of life.
It's
Keep
little
on
wonder.
smiling.
That's right, yeah. And the whiskey in this country is pretty good too, you know.
We'll taste
Yeah.
it. We'll taste it.
Thank you very much indeed, Theo and
Thank you.
Johnny.
No problem.
Theo and Johnny both caught fish here in the UK and went back home more than pleased that they had caught their first British carp. The water they caught on was Hardwick Lake, a day ticket venue on the Linear Complex. Now, their success spurred me on to try my luck over the road on St John's for a bit of surface fishing. But just before that, it's back to that man, Derrick Ritchie, for a special tip.
Right, here's another top tip from the Don. Do you remember last year? Gardner Tackle bought you the bagget. Well, now they've improved it. I'm going to show you what to do. Take the boilie, plop it in the hole, put the lead in the little recess on the top. A little bit of pellet in on top of it. Get your lead, plop your lead down inside. Little bit of pellet over the top, ease it down, slide it off, just like that. Give it a right good old shake up. As you can see, I'm using Gardner Deluxe Anti-Ladder PVA. Once you've put all your pellet and everything else into the bag, you can use chopped boilies, whatever you want. Give it a right good old shake so you get it nicely compressed down. You must get it compressed down. God, this old fish net looks really nice. I'd like to see that on a few of the ladies. Right, next move. What you got to do, take your PVA string and tie it up around the outside. Couple of knots. 1, 2, there you go. What you can do is you can snip this off, because really that's, you know, you don't really want that in the way, especially if you're going to cast it long distances. One thing I have found that when I use PVA bags, you want to scale down the size of the lead that you're putting in there, because once you've put your pellet and once you put your chopped boilies or whatever you're going to put in it, it weighs that much more heavily. And when you're going to cast it, always make sure that you give it plenty of welly when you're going to cast it, because, you know, that doesn't fly out there the same as your lead. I've found that sometimes when I put a PVA bag on and I cast it out, you just don't give it enough oomph and it doesn't go to the area that you want to get it to. And you always got to remember, you want to get it on the spot. Near enough isn't spot on. It's got to be spot on every time. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to finish chopping this up and I'm going to get ready to cast it out. Spot on! That'll do nicely.
Well, how about this? I've nicked off for 5 minutes in the filming and I managed to catch one on the top. There's a lovely 17¼ pound common, lovely sort of streamline fish. This came on floating trout pellets, and of course, seeing this is the bait video, let's talk a bit more about bait and go and see Martin Lock. Well, here we are with Lockie, and before we start talking about bait, the dreaded subject, you had a tremendous catch recently. I know we covered it in the paper. Just tell us a little bit about it, yeah?
Yeah, it was a series of short overnighters, and I walked about 20 minutes from work. And I thought after all that rain and nastiness they had all the winter time, that he'd get himself off down there at the first opportunity, and rather than sit indoors reading the newspapers and watching telly and making a nuisance of himself, pop down there, see if we can't catch a few, and it ended up really good. 16 fish in 6 overnighters, and 4 of those are over 30, including the biggest one in the pond at 39.14.
Fantastic. I mean, you're going to work next day, yeah?
Yeah, we was getting up and having a look around at first light, and thankfully the bites were coming mostly around that time, so you got a sensible night's sleeping as well for the onslaught of the day, and they were good fish as well, so it was perfect. They were just waking up out their winter quiet time, was noticed, because all of virtually every fish was covered in leeches, and it wasn't just one area the fish were caught from, it was various swims.
So you moved around, yeah?
Yeah, as conditions changed.
So you went on the conditions, all fish moving, stuff like that? I mean, you saw fish, you moved
it was
into that area?
one spot I was fishing was fairly shallow, which I always find are more productive areas when it's like the typical sunshine, flat, calm summer morning.
Right.
It was 3 or 4 feet deep, and then as soon as you got that chillier northeast and northerly wind blowing, the fish weren't there. Fished the other side of the pond, and even though there's probably a couple of 100 yards difference between them, that's where they were. They sort of ended up.
Did you put a lot of bait in? What did you judge to be the right amount for the catching these
One
fish?
particular swim was perfect for baiting up with the particle style and ground bait, because
why? Because it was close, or
it was a long cast, but you can actually walk round and put your bait in.
Ah, right. What?
So,
walk round and drop it in?
Yeah, walk round 100, 110 yard chuck up to this gap in between these the island and the bank. We could walk round, and the mixture of hemp seed, bag mix, the vital in the old dog food, growler juice and stuff in there. I think nothing really putting in 7 or 8 kilos.
Really? So quite a lot. So would you fish pop-ups over that, or what?
I fished pop-ups and bottom baits and got bites on both, really.
Right.
There was no one outdoing the other by much. The fish were in the area.
Yes.
And when the conditions are right, so these flat, calm conditions are the one, then you pick up 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah.
And now, just before we started, you were telling me that people ring you up, they for advice, and they expect you to know all the answers. But you also told me something else as well, which is interesting. You said, people always want to overcomplicate things. I mean,
the magazines and the articles written about bait, it's major bomb site, that subject, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. And the thing is, people's confidence wholly relies on that bait, because the way things are these days, rigs, the way like the papers like Carp Talk and Carp were doing it, everyone's using a fairly sensible rig.
Yes.
And short of getting to the water and the fish have completely switched off, if someone's catching them and they're not, then the obvious thing they think is going wrong is their bait. So we sort of try and you get rid of all the wood, see the wood for the trees by simplifying things.
Yes.
If you read in a magazine article that if you boil your bait for 90 seconds, that's all right, but if it goes to 2 minutes, then you've disturbed all the nature and the breakdown of the bait. It's not the way it should be, you know, because that's the first thing you think of. The worst thing is sit on the water thinking, oh, I've boiled my bait too long.
Yeah.
You know, it's, the way people are these days, that they rely on companies like us and the other reputable firms around to give them the confidence to know that the bait that they're picking up, not that they've had to make themselves, that we've put our knowledge in and experience into that bait, so all they have to do is pick them up. They can, you know, add their own labels and things to boost it and individualise it by adding dips and soaks and that sort of thing. But they're wholly relying on you to put that part of that aspect of the sport on the plate for them. Although it's only one part of the three, you know.
That's right. Now, Martin, I know you haven't got much time. I mean, you've got a successful business and what have you. I mean, these overnighters that you're doing when time is tight, I mean, none of us are getting any younger. I'm not saying you're old, but none of us. Are you still willing to move in the middle of the night and get up 4:30 and look at the, you know, the water and stuff like that?
I think you have to, you know, it's easy to become complacent over it. And you sit there and think back on what went on years ago. I think I was always up and around then, early, you know, half an hour before light, have a quick look out, just even if you're just lying in your bed. And when everyone else is asleep, that's when the fish are active. And if you're not woken up by a run, just have a look out and see where, you know, are where you think they're going to be, or no, they're not. They've moved from where they were the last sighting and they're down a few hundred yards. Pick your gear up and move, and I'll get some satisfaction by catching bonus fish. That, you know, these, when you're on waters such as the likes of Savay and places like that, these one bite is a fish of a lifetime. It does become times when you kick yourself for not just putting that little bit of extra effort in that you used to do years ago when you used to catch a man over fish. You know,
that's right. And I mean, your gears. I mean, you've got a brolly and a bed chair. I mean, you keep it
minimal gear. I've always only ever carried the minimal tackle I ever can. Enough to do it all. It's strange to come somewhere like this where you don't quite know what's going to go on.
Yes.
You end up bringing too much. But most people, I guess, fish waters where it's not their first visit. They know what's going on, and they know what they've had success on before. So, for instance, we come up here and the round that I was talking about before from the Surrey water. 2 rods splayed out there. One where it's supposed to be a good big hit area, like a gravel bar. Not too much bait. There's no point in putting it in if you can't take it out as one.
Did you spot or catapult or
just catapulted and put it out with a stick? 2 different areas, one in slightly deeper water, one on this shallow bar, one fairly close on the ground bait. Just fish percentages really and try and see what's working quickly on a short session, and then you stand you in good stead for the next sessions. And if you've had 2 or 3 bites on one, that's where your confidence lies, and play it by ear that way. You know, you just try and cut back, get rid of all the thoughts it could be and the methods you could use, leaving you with the one thing that does work.
Because you get this in people's minds, don't you? They get this fixation of its location, presentation, right, and bait. But I mean, is that always the case?
Well, that's all you see in magazines. Now, obviously, no one can tell you that if you're not on the fish, you're not going to catch them. But the shape of the lakes, the stocking of the lakes, and the amount of people fishing them at the time, you haven't always got the best chance to locate. Your location ends up being the available swims.
Yeah, quite right.
As I said about rigs, most people are using sensible rigs that will catch carp. They don't, you know, the extra special little touches make the difference every now and again, but for the most, you will catch on, for instance, a knotless knot hair at the back of the eye, and you know, it's a good sort of all-round setup. But the bait thing, at the end of the day, that carp has got to be wanting to put his mouth and his lips and pick up your food item above everything else that's around and available to them. And it's strange how most lakes have got an angler just happens to catch more than everyone else.
Yes.
It always happens.
Yeah,
you know,
you do get that.
Different in the summertime when the fish are moving more. You know, someone gets in, there's near enough always a top swim on the water where that man, whatever he's using, will catch the most. But that apart, when it comes down to the the winter time and colder months when there's not much happening? Why is that one angler always seem to catch just that odd one when no one else did? You know, all bait isn't the same, and it's a case of giving them the best possible all-round package. They're going to be wanting to pick up.
When did you actually start in bait? Can you remember?
Well, when I've always, from the day I started carp fishing, must be 25 years ago now,
Yes.
always tinkered around like you had to then to find the ingredients and the flavours and the additives and stuff. And it's really that on a grander scale now. And I appreciate most people, because it is a science amongst itself. I don't find it particularly a problem, because that's what you're used to doing. You've always done that thing. And the way it is, people don't have got not either the interest nor the time or the money to spend going into that side of it. And why should they? You know, there's enough of our guys out there.
Doing it and offering it.
And obviously, it's it's only successful. We're only going that long because they do catch fish, and it's.
Are we up, as a final question, are we up for any kind of breakthrough in bait coming soon? Any additives, anything along with fish hormone, somehow or other we can inject bait in it? I mean, can you see anything like that coming?
To be honest, I think the best ever bait that was available to everyone and everyone caught well on was tiger nuts. There's no substituting for that. There's things that can be changed and moved around that make life easier, such as things like this gel bait, which were originally designed for crayfish.
This is the one that encloses.
Yeah, it's like a little cage.
Around the bait.
Yeah, a little trap there. And what it means is you can fish paste where you've got the release of attractors without the worry of it coming off on the hook at distance. More so, you can use sweet corn in it. So you've got a compressed ball of sweet corn, where before you've got problems of it A coming off on a long chuck, and B being whittled away and eaten by the small fish. Now you haven't got that. So you've got maybe the most attractive bait of all time, that and bread, to use for in conditions and situations that you would never been able to use, and that sort of thing. All forwards in small stages rather than great big leaps, I think. Obviously everyone thinks there is that one thing that just turns them on when they're not, you know, why aren't they having it? They're leaping around and rolling away over the bait, you're not getting any action. And every now and again you hit on it right, but the goalposts are always changing with that, because the fish are not reading the articles, are they? They're just swimming about and enjoying themselves.
That's right. Well, it's right to say, we've got to come to the end there. They do keep changing the goalposts, which is why we keep striving to catch them. I get them. That was absolutely terrific, Martin. A lot of information in there to digest. Even made me think once or twice there. So thank you very much indeed, Martin.
There he is, look.
Well, how about that? There you are. Martin said he was going to move, and he's caught one.
Out on the long link. There's a few too many on the surface. I'm not quite up to your standard of control and watching the float go. Like, chuck them out, clip them up, bottom style fishing on the top.
Yeah, and there we are, the result.
Yeah, you kind of decide which one's going to pick the bait up.
Lovely. Well, we've got some more fishing to do. Who knows?
Cross little carp.
Yeah, nice.
He's angry, but
he's angry there.
He was.
Yeah. No, he's lovely. All right, well, while we let Martin put that back...
Try and catch another one.
Yeah, we'll go off to see what Richard Farnham's got to say on the subject. And here we are with Richard. Now, I've got to tell you something, folks, before we start. This red nose here has got nothing to do with being on the bottle or anything. Poor old Richard's got the dreaded scourge of fishermen of the summer. He's got hay fever, so he's told me he's not going to sneeze and he's not going to blow his nose.
No, we should be fine.
Okay, right, fine. Okay, yeah, bait, of course, and I know you fish for a bait company, and I guess your philosophy of bait, obviously, you know, is similar to theirs of fresh bait and ingredients. I know how particular they are.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well, it's about 3 years ago when I was originally introduced to the carp company bait. As when I joined the Horton Syndicate. I was fishing Horton and really didn't have a clue what bait to use. And at the time, it had gone from the transition of where original mainline Grange, which took it to pieces. All of a sudden, there was a whole new generation of carp anglers that joined, and the bait main
so
flavours,
fish meal then,
It was a fish meal base with the flavour attractor was crab and cranberry originally. That developed into the caviar and cranberry. And to be quite honest with you, it took the place to pieces. And obviously, I joined as this was happening. I wasn't with the bait company at all at the time, and I really needed to get on an established bait. And it was Tony Parker that originally showed me the effectiveness of this bait, not just from the catching fish. He said, one day, summer day like this, he said, have a look at this. dropped one of the little balls into the margin, left it for about 5 minutes. We went back to it 5 minutes later, and the actual bait itself was crawling with all the natural food, all the shrimps and the larvae and the snails. They all come out and attach themselves to the bait. They were just all over the bait, and it was just, wow, if the bait doesn't attract the carp, all the natural food that's actually on the bait will do. And it's really from then I started to learn about the carp company products, what they put in the bait, the high nutritional value of it. It's an actual food source bait, but it has an instant attraction as well. So you can go to a lake that's never seen the bait before, you've got a very, very good chance of catching a fish immediately on it. It's mainly a confidence thing.
Right, good stuff. Now look, you haven't fished this particular lake here. We're in Oxford again today. Just give, I mean, it's a high line water, there's people know about it. Obviously you've done a bit of homework, and you know there's a lot of fish in there, stuff like that. But your bait, I mean, what was your thinking? I mean, you make a lot of decisions, obviously, and a lot of people don't, but you make them here actually on the bank.
You do, yeah.
12 hours before at home thinking I'm going to fish that spot with that bait.
That's right, yeah.
Just how have you approached this particular session?
Initially, I did my homework. I've been to the lake once, twice previously, but a long, long time ago.
Right.
But I did my homework. I had looked at the websites, read a few reports, and spoke to people that have actually fished it that I knew.
Yep.
So I've got a general feel for what the fish are attracted to in it. Now, they do like particle, I found out, and they are very big boilie eaters. So I thought, well, got to give yourself options. You're approaching a water the first time, you need to have options.
Yeah.
So I came over with, obviously, boilies, which I've found tremendous over the last few weeks as an instant attraction bait as well.
Right.
I've caught on waters which I've never even visited before within a few hours of being there. So that was the first thing that was going to go into my bucket. Then I brought a combination of cooked hemp, maples and trout pellet.
Right.
Again, it's the old favourite, we all know, but it works.
Yeah.
With the amount of stock that's actually in this lake, we knew that that sort of attractor could fish very, very well.
Yes.
As we can fish the 3 rods in here, I didn't want to group everything together because obviously I'll be cancelling out my options. So got the 3 different setups. I'm fishing into the little bay round to my left. Now in that bay, I've made up a ground bait paste. Basically that's the mixture of the trout pellet, the hemp and the maples. Mixing it with and letting the water soak in so we can make it into a ground baiting mix.
Right.
I've put that across into the far margin of that bait.
Right, so what have you done? You spotted or you catapulted or
No,
what?
I didn't want to spod because again it's a very small bay and when we got here there were fish there.
Yes.
And I knew chucking leads about, chucking spods about,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
would completely kill it and it was already clouded so they were already feeding. So what we did, we went round to the opposite side and we fed it in just by hand, just
Right.
trickled it in just so that we're not creating too much disturbance.
How many, just give us an idea, how many balls? 10 balls, 5 balls?
We did 7.
Right.
I just wanted 7 in
Why?
there, no particular reason. I didn't want 10, I didn't want 5. I needed to get in between because there was already fish feeding there, so there was obviously natural food there. I just wanted to introduce on top of the natural food. I chose that amount because there were 4 or 5 fish already there.
Right.
4 or 5 fish there, it's not a huge amount of bait, but it's going to get them searching and digging
Would
around.
this break down pretty quick, the mixture you made?
Yeah, it actually breaks down almost upon impact.
Right,
You can.
right.
It's nice and stodgy, so it'll actually catapult will be thrown out a good few 20, 30 yards,
Right.
but as soon as it hits the water, it disperses immediately,
Yep.
and you get a nice cloud effect, and it'll come down, settle onto the bottom.
Right.
Generally speaking, if you've got carp in the area already, they'll be up looking around because they can smell it and think, what is this? And then they'll follow it down to the bottom.
Would you generally fish a pop-up over those,
No.
or does it depend?
No, I don't personally. I'll always fish a bottom bait. If I'm ever fishing over particle, and it's I think it's a psychological and a confidence thing from an angler's point of view, even if we're in silt, I get asked many questions about fishing a pop-up over silt, etc. And I was like, no, fish a bottom bait over silt. At the end of the day, the fish are feeding on particle or in silt, regardless of what they're on, their mouths and their heads are right into it. Especially if they're on particle, they're rooting through the weed, they're rooting through whatever's on the debris on the bottom, so they're getting stuck right in. Therefore, fish a bottom bait, it's in amongst it. It's wild.
Have you bought the Icelandic red? Have you bought the black? So mainly, what is it? You're looking for.
I'm
well,
looking
you're here
for
for a small amount of time. Instant
short period of
attraction,
time. Yeah. I've gone for a high attraction bait, which is the black squid, but it is also got such a high nutritional value, as with all the carp company products. They're there as a food source. You've got the instant attractions in with it, but it is a food source also.
Right.
So. And that's where the records prove themselves across Houghton, over at Orchid Lakes, etc. They're an established bait.
It's a successful bait.
Yeah, and they just keep on catching, but that's because it's readily acceptable. So I've brought it down here mainly because of that reason. A, I know it's going to catch fish. That's all I need to worry about. The actual fundamentals behind it, that's down to the experts, Bob and Jules. But for my own confidence, it's just I need 100% confidence in that bait. So far, fingers crossed. Every water I've fished on it, I've fished 4 different waters now with this bait since I've had it, and I've caught it from every single water.
Every single one, yeah. Oh, well, you can't say fair on that. So, your general, reasonably high-pressure day ticket water. I mean, a lot of your decisions obviously are made up when you arrive here, aren't they?
Well, they are.
Not the day before, yeah?
No, they are, that's it. I mean, you've got a good idea in the back of your mind how you want to fish to begin with, but when you get down here, that can all go out of the window immediately. But that's the main thing, why to have the options. We've got that one rod onto the bay, in the edge, fishing a single hook bait over it. Second rod I've put over the back of a bar.
Right.
All I've got over that rod is 30 free baits. Again, it's on a bottom bait, but 30 freebies of obviously the black squid.
Right.
On my right-hand rod, I've now got that into open water where I've seen some fish crashing on a single pop-up. I've used a pop-up on that particular rig.
No bait, no free bait at all?
No free bait whatsoever, because I don't know what's out there, so I'd rather have a 2-inch pop-up, so whatever's there, I'm safe. But that is, again, that's my roaming rod at the moment. Now, I'm fishing with 3 different scenarios. I can swap 2 rods onto that method, keep one on a separate method, and just basically work at it, see how it goes.
Right.
And as soon as we start catching fish, we can chop and change our way of thinking just to make best of our opportunity.
Right, so that's thinking on the bank. I mean, the great
you
thing
have to think on the bank.
That's right. Right, Richard, pass on a little gem for us. Come on, a little gem. For a lot of young anglers watch these videos.
Well, the first and foremost thing to do, don't get any preconceived ideas about when you first approach a lake. You might have a swim in mind, a particular area of the lake in mind, you can get to it, it could be completely stitched up with other anglers. So you always approach it with an open mind.
Yep.
When you get there, stay open, give yourself options all the time. Don't get lazy. Too many anglers you see these days follow what's currently happening in the water. Find a clear spot, 70, 80 yards out, fill it in with bait, put your baits on it, sit back and relax. At the end of a 36, 48-hour session, you sit back and think, I haven't caught a fish. Why not? Just don't be lazy. Get what other people are doing. If everybody's fishing out in the middle, fish in the edge. The 3 rods, stage it. One in the edge, one 15, 20 yards, then maybe one out wide. Don't just sit behind your rods. Always around, jumping up and down, walking down the bank, you know. People will think you're mad doing it, but that's how the most successful anglers catch fish.
I quite. Now, talking about jumping up and down, you do look a little bit sort of twitchy to me now.
I've got the urge, Chris. There's such a show of fish going on behind us here. I've got to move. I've got to go.
Well, there we are, folks. He practices what he preaches. There he goes. He's off to catch a fish. Now it's back again to the Don for another tip.
Right, I'm now going to tell you about some of the components that you need for my next top tip. We have Frank Warwick's Subterfuge Fluorocarbon. We have Gardner pop-up foam, Gardner dumbbell held hair stops, and a syringe. Be careful when you use the syringe, and always make sure that you put the cap back on the end, because you don't want to stick it in you, do you? You have a Gardner hair needle, and as you can see there, I've put these handy little dumbbells, boilie stops, onto the end of the needle. You know what it's like? You're sitting by the lake, you put your boilie on, and what do you look for? The air stops. When they're on the end of the needle, you haven't got to bend down and pick them up. You can just cut them off and put them into the rig. We've got these what I've cut up here from the pop-up foam from Gardner. We've got Gardner talon tip, swivel, and we've got the bait. The bait is Mainline's Assassinate. Right, this little tip is not for the faint-hearted. Do you know why? It's a depth charge. That's what I call it anyway. You can either have round or pellet shape. You can snip them off, just like that. And what you do is, you make sure that your paste is very, very moist. Sometimes I give it a little lick, just to make sure that it goes together nicely. If you don't keep it moist, what will happen? It will crack up when you go to boil it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to boil these little babies. When you boil them, if you boil them for 2 to 3 minutes and then leave them out and let them air dry, they go rock hard. That's the finished boilie. Now, this is one I've put together already onto the rig. What you've got to remember is always use a braided hair needle. Don't use the needle with a sharp point on it with a little barb. I'll tell you why, if you fish braided hook lengths, when you push it in, right, and you start pulling about in the boilie, you're liable to catch the hair. So I've already put quite a few pinholes in this one. And now all you do is get the syringe and pop it in the hole and give it a little squeeze. And there you go. Look at that little baby. Give it a little bit of juice over the top of it. Now, fishing this is when you're fishing really, really tight bait. When you put your bait in, get it as tight as you can, and then fish one of those babies over the top of it. It's ideal in the winter. You know, if you want to put quite a lot of flavouring into your bait. You know, I use a lot of flavouring in the winter. My baits really do smell strong, because a lot of the time I fish single ones. You can fish that. You can get this right with the foam inside. You can have it quickly balanced, and you just fill it up with the gear, and away you go.
Well, that's a good one. Thanks for that, Derrick. And here's another good one. His name is Ian Russell. And here he is, my very good friend Ian. Hello, good.
Hello, Chris.
How are you this afternoon?
Sounds a pound, mate. Sounds a pound.
Now, look, before we start talking about this precious subject of bait, what have you been catching recently? It's quite extraordinary.
Been having a right result, mate. Well, this year my fishing's changed. I'm so busy making pop-ups for punters and customers that I've had to choose a venue with lots more fish. Go back to 3 years ago, catching volume of fish instead of one big fish. I haven't got the time anymore. Yeah. Reading was a perfect venue. Big headed 30-pound fish, big headed 20s. Yeah. Been going over there catching them, mate, and loving it.
So how do you approach, like, bait and the strategy? I mean, first of all, tell us how you were catching them.
Right, Reading, again, big head of fish, but it's also got a massive head of tension bream. Yes. The way I approached Reading was to bring the tension bream in first, but have loads of big boilies over the top, so that when the actual carp come in notice the disturbance and come in and start having a little bit themselves, they'll knock the tension bream out, but there's plenty of grub left for them. Right. This is the way I've approached it. You know, there's other anglers on there that are doing it different. From smaller venues, they're used to putting handfuls in, and they're getting plagued with 10, 20 tension item bream. I've only caught about 5 bream and I've had no tension, so I've been lucky in, you know, I'm getting it right for once. Right.
Give us an idea of quantities. When you say talk about particles, I mean, just give us an idea. I mean, swim choice is important, and so once all that's done, what made you choose that strategy, and just give us an idea of exactly, you know, poundage or kilos.
Right, well, example, like my last trip was a fantastic kilos of boilies.
How did you get that out? Did you spot?
Well, I'm lucky there. We was walking around the other side where you can't fish from, but you're allowed to go around, and you can place it in the edge with a scoop, a cobra scoop, very, very quickly, like, you know, 10 minutes and you're on your way back home again.
Excellent. So that, in a lot of people's eyes, would be considered quite a lot of bait.
Well, on other waters I've fished to prior to this season, I wouldn't use that much in the summer. But because of what's in this one, big head of big fish, you can get away with it, Chris.
Right. You know? So as you were saying, the other fish were coming in, feeding on the pellet and the hemp and everything else, and yet you were then using something really big over the top.
22mm fish meals.
Really?
Yeah, 22 millers. When I arrived on the Friday, I walked round and you can climb a tree above the area that I'm fishing to. The whole lot was gone, crystal clear, and there was about 20 carp hovering just off the air, and there was about 100 bream hovering above them, like, you know. So just took the bull by the horns, took a chance baiting up on top of them, and the next morning started happening, like, but I'd never had one single bream that weekend.
Good grief.
And yeah, they were there all the time. They were there.
What kind of catches did you have?
First morning, the first bite was 30-pound 4-ounce mirror. Right. An hour later at a 32 1/4. Then I can only assume they'd ate all the bait. I went round there a few hours later after no more takes. The bream were everywhere. You could see them in the top 2 or 3 foot of the feet of the water. Right. You couldn't see the bottom. It was just too stirred up. So I baited again. Following morning, 31-pound mirror. Wow. Then had a 25-pound mirror, and then unfortunately lost 2 fish to bite-offs. So you know,
had their
shorten
heads
the hook
down,
links, yeah, shorten the hook links. The action had stopped for a few hours, went round again, and again there was masses of bream, bumping into your waders and everything in the margins, but I still hadn't had a bite off a bream. So I baited up again, went back round to the swim, took an hour sorting my life out with new rigs and that, shorter rigs, lobbed them across there. Within 10 minutes had 2 takes, a 26-pound linear.
Wow.
Unfortunately lost another fish that wrapped around a branch in the water and the line broke. Gave it another 2 or 3 hours, Chris. Went round and put my last of my bait in. You know, we're doing 2 or 3 more kilos of boilies. You know, not masses while I'm actually fishing, you know, to rebait. Went round again, done it again. Within an hour, 2 more takes. Lost a fish and then a little common. Which, don't know, something in my heart told me that it was petering out now anyway to catch a small carp. After all the big ones, they came down in sizes. And surely enough, that was my last take of the trip. Like, you know, I'd done 1 more night, nicked a night off work, like, and couldn't really afford it, but done it. And never had any more takes. I'd run out of bait, basically, you know. I'd people running up and down the motorway bringing 3 and 4 kilo bags of bait, and I'd run out of bait. But all
the lot, yeah.
Yeah, the entire trip, though, I mean, I had 2 or 3 people sitting with me all the time, and you could see bream over the area constantly, but never had 1 bream take.
Yeah, amazing. Well, here we're obviously a different venue. We're here at Shimano Linear St John's in Oxford. Now, why wouldn't that work here? That approach?
It probably would work here, but for different reasons. There's a massive head of carp in here. You've got a dozen bream, I'm led to believe, and there's a few tench, but they just don't get caught. It's nearly always carp. So for here, I mean, the limited time I get here, I'd just fish for bites. You know, 20 boilies and an hook bait. I wouldn't bother with masses of bait.
Right. How would you get those boilies out? Would you just catapult and spot them?
Yeah, catapult
PVA?
and rocket, whatever. I mean, one of my rods up there was about 130 yards out, so you put them out with a rocket.
Yes.
Closer in ones, I'd break them up and put bags on them. Medium range throw and stick, you know, catapult, however you can. But the few times I've fished here, we've had results over either stringers or just a scattering lot. You know, I haven't been here long enough, Chris, to warrant, in my mind, putting out a massive, you know, a massive bait lot, you know.
Now, using pop-ups here?
I am, yes, yeah. I'm in it.
Right.
And 5 were on pop-ups. 2 bite-offs were on bottom baits, and I changed them all. But yeah, at the first, well, the 6 fish I banked, 5 on pop-ups, 1 on a bottom bait.
Right, talking of pop-ups, just let's have a quick look at the rig.
Right, mate, no. Got one here prepared earlier. There you go, mate. 10-pound GR60, little tiny split shot, just on a D rig. The baits, these particular pops are so hard, I've tied them on, you know. You can pass a needle through them and tie them on that way, but a little loop of dental floss.
Right, dental floss, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You've got a pretty small hook on there as well.
That's an 8 or a 10. That's what I use for my pop-ups anyway.
Right. I mean, are we using big baits here?
Here I'm using 16mm pop-ups.
Right.
So I don't think there's any need to use massive baits here because, again, it's predominantly carp.
Right, see, you just say that so quickly. I don't think there's a need. Why don't you think there's a need to use the bigger ones?
Well, the bigger baits, again, at Reading were to deter the bream and tench.
Right.
You know, I can go back to that session. My friend Matt was on the right-hand side of me, put out a little bit of bait, smaller baits, and he had 15 tench in a weekend. Like, you know, I had no bites of anything other than carp.
So it really does show. I mean, there was a marked difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, obviously involved in bait as you are. I mean, one of the things that we'll be discussing during the course of this video is things like nutritional value. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, Christ, you've got to have a good bait. Yeah, I think the day's gone with getting away with
a base mix.
A very good base mix, yeah. Fish meal, you know, Mainline Grange, they're all food baits. The more you put in, and no matter where you go, it's already gone in before you've been there. Like, you know, a lot to Mainline and your Premier, which are big fish meal companies. No matter where you go, it's already been pre-baited for you, and they're on it and they stay on it. So again, lob it out and you'll catch
So
them.
attractors, flavours, do you still hold a great importance on that, or are you more
single look baits, yeah. You know, a visual, really smelly pineapple, tutti fruity type of bait is fantastic. I mean, it takes some beating. Yeah, Christ, yeah, and strawberries. As a single look bait, I don't think you can beat them. But fishing, you know, where you're bringing fish in and feeding them a food bait, Chris. You know, and not so much on the smell, just the food value. They just eat it, carry on eating it, don't they?
Yeah, keep eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. I mean, we're here today on a nice day, and I mean, what about on the surface then? I mean, you have a little go on the surface now.
I do a cut, I'm afraid. I think impatience is my friend for fishing on the bottom.
Well, there again, I shouldn't think there's much time. I mean, to have action like that on the weekend. I mean, not
for a few years. I mean, I had a tiny little advantage in the fact that a friend of mine fished it 5 years ago.
Right.
had the same sort of approach. I mean, he was coming into me picking up buckets and buckets of bait for every trip, and the buckets got more and more and more, and in the end, he was just baiting everything out. But till he went heavy on it, he was just catching the same as everyone else, tension bream, tension on small carp. When he went onto the massive beds of bait, off it went. You know, he was catching a 30 a trip basically, and back up 20s. So it worked for him. So
Boilies are still.
I still do it. Yeah, I still do it.
Yeah.
They always will do, won't they?
Yeah, you've seen no slowdown in.
No, not at all.
In orders.
Not at all, mate. In fact, most of the lads now that are fishing that particular lake are ordering. I mean, I do most of their bait anyway. Instead of 16 mils now, big uns, 22s, 24s, right? And they're ordering the same amount, 10 and 20k at a time, but big uns.
Yeah. So really, in the end, just as a quick sum up, I mean, you're not making shed loads of bait like in the winter. You know, like 200 kilos and then just go to the lake and whatever. I mean, you're thinking about each individual approach to certain lakes. Now, to get that knowledge in your head, you must obviously have some pre-knowledge of the lake as well.
Well, yeah, you have. I mean, to get that, you just fish. We fish so many venues, different types of carp fishing, different styles of carp fishing. You know, you get it in your head, you know exactly what you want to do before you get there. I don't say where you want to fish, but you know what you want to take with you, size of bait, amount of bait. Pass on, you can advise, but it's something.
There, Ian, and blimey, I think 10 minutes has gone just like that, mate.
Thanks quick, a lot. Mate, too quick. Cheers.
Well, that was on his first session on the water. Little thing here, you might think we go to exclusive waters to get some of this footage. That was actually at Hunt's Corner Lake. It's a day ticket water, again on the linear complex. Our next guest needs little introduction. In fact, you saw him in part 1 showing off those fantastic rigs. So it's over to Frank Warwick at St John's to hear his thoughts on bait. Right, bait, Frank, bait. Let's start off with these. I call them crazy, but I've seen them working in action. These bright, really attractive baits that you use. Just tell us a little bit of the philosophy behind it.
Well, it's basically an alternative, Chris. If you're in a situation where you've not got much time, or you know it's cold conditions, and you want to use singles, I thought, well, I'm not going to have time to bait up and what have you, so I started experimenting using singles, and very successful. It's all documented, you know, over 20 years use. And I've got quite a curious mind, so I started messing around, testing how far you can go with flavour levels.
Yes.
And I've developed it quite a long way, and I'm using pH testing kits now. It's gone to extremes, really, to get the best of single hook baits.
So how do you know, how on earth do you know how to put some in? Because some of them have fantastically high levels in there, don't they?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, really. With the single hook bait, what you've got to bear in mind is the fish aren't actually getting to eat it, because hopefully you've had your run when they've picked it up, if your rigs are okay. And, you know, you can get away with quite high flavour levels.
You've told me this before,
Yeah, I mean, as much as 25 mil per egg.
Per egg?
Yeah.
25 millilitres per egg, wow. Yeah,
because I wouldn't dream of using it in free offerings. It'd be too much for the fish.
Right.
But on a single, all you want to do is them to suck it in once, to test it, and then bang, that's your take. And I use as little as like half a mil, depending on whether the flavour's acidic or alkaline. So getting back to the pH testing kit, what I do is I test the flavours, and through trial and error, I found that if you've got a very alkaline flavour, say around 10 and a half, you can use as much as 25 mil per egg. I mean, it's not definite, it's not set in concrete, this. You'll still have to experiment. But if you was to use that in an acidic flavour, say 4, the fish just won't tolerate it.
Right.
You have to go very low on the acidic flavours.
You were telling me earlier on the middle point 7, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got alkaline on one side, yeah?
Yeah, that's high.
Yeah, that's high, right.
Yeah.
And then you've got the acidic value, which is the lower one.
Yeah.
So right, so you're actually doing this with me earlier?
Yeah, it's a friend of mine got me, it's a German pH testing kit, and it's about 500 quid's worth. And he acquired it for me from where he works.
Fine.
And basically I went through all the flavours in a friend of mine's shop, and it was fascinating to see the variations. And he wasn't in the shop at the time, actually. Me and the manager went through and we tested them all. And it even does damp base mixes, so we can check out the base mixes, see what they're like.
Right.
And we found that on a single egg attractor bait, if you're using a neutral pH, say 7, and the lake's 7,
yes,
it's quite slow.
Right.
So I knew I was onto something with the pH thing then. Because if you use one that's the same pH as the background water, the lake, there's no message coming out for the fish to key to.
Right.
So I go for the visual aspects of the very bright bait and also the pulling power of the pH thing.
Right. I mean, generally, I suppose it's the base that the flavours are on. I mean, are generally the fishy ones higher or lower, or
well, without going into the heavy chemistry of it all, the you know, I mean, there's certain components and there's solvents that are used to cut the key components as a carrier, or else they'd be ridiculously expensive.
Right.
But I've found that when they're more concentrated and there's less solvent in there, they're quite intense, very alkaline or very acidic, and not a lot in between. But some of the chemicals they use to, you know, as a bulk carrier, seem to stabilise them and alter the pH.
Gee, I mean, have the higher ones the really? I mean, are these necessarily stinky flavours when you sort of?
No,
they're not. No.
No, you can get some that have got very little smell, but the pH is quite extreme, and that's what's working.
Gee, so what about, again, I guess it's what it's blended with, but I like the fruit flavours. I mean, they're very popular these days. Your pineapples and strawberry forever and stuff like that. I mean, are you telling me they can be all over the place depending on what base they're with, yeah?
No, not always. You can get a lot of the fruit flavours, to be honest, are acidic.
Right.
And they're best used at lower amounts. But a lot of the, like the squid octopus, shellfish, and some of the fishy ones are more alkaline. They smell like smelling salts, you know. Mainline crayfish is one of the highest I've ever tested. That was about 10.6.
Right.
And you can use that in up to 25 mil per or more. But as I say, don't use it in the free offerings.
No. This is hook bait only.
Yeah, hook bait only. Yeah.
That we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is quite fascinating. I mean, out the two of them, I mean, do you prefer the higher ones, or does it? I suppose it depends on the lake, doesn't it?
Not at all. On the contrary, what I do is if we go to a new water, I'll take a selection.
Right.
And I'll never go with, say you can use 3 rods, I'll never have just alkaline ones on, or just acidic ones. I have one of each and start at extremes. And then usually, it's funny, from water to water they vary.
Right.
Some waters they like the alkaline ones, and some acidic, but it's time of the year as well, it can change. The same lake can turn completely on its head, and it'll reverse itself.
Yeah, the rules keep changing,
they
don't
do,
they? That's why you've got to be ahead of the game.
Keep you on your toes.
I'll say. I mean, do you get worried on the really high level ones, say with other fish like bream and tench? I mean, other ones where you tend to steer clear of on a really strong mixed fishery? Yeah,
it's strange really. The ones that you tend to get nuisance, for want of a better word, sort of action, is the acidic ones.
Acidic ones,
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so that would then be the quite high ones. I mean, here we are, again, we're in Oxford here today.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you tackle, I mean, you're at the lake next door fishing at the moment. Nobody's rod's out, folks, I can assure you. We are some way away from Frank's Swim. I mean, how are you viewing manna, I mean, today? I mean, well, just tell us, I mean, what have you found?
To put it bluntly, in the colder temperatures on there, the acidic flavours were better.
Right.
Yeah, in the warm temperatures, the squid, that type of flavour in higher levels work. And you know, an interesting thing about these is I've been using butyric acid, which is quite low, obviously, with say pineapple flavour, the old mainline pineapple gear, which I'm ranting about. You know, it's very, very effective. And if you use the two in combination, it's quite hard to beat. And at the moment, I've got it on every rod.
Have you?
I'm that confident.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You know, it's
Are
just
they different colour baits though on the other than the Frank?
Yeah, I use the pink quite a lot, but strangely enough, you get the same sort of thing again. Sometimes they'll just want orange or yellow, and they won't touch the pink. Whereas other times it's the pink 2%. David Attenborough's thing. It showed a goldfish in laboratory conditions, and all they had was a safe light. And the technician came in the dark. As soon as he came in, the goldfish could see him, which is a cyprinid.
Yes.
And it got excited, thought it was going to be fed. And he had a white, you know, 3/4 length coat on. And it could see the infrared reflecting off the white top. So I got to thinking about it. Started using white baits at night. And the success had to be seen to be believed, really. There was definitely something in it. So the philosophy was to just put white baits on in the dark.
Yes, right.
And it works. I've told quite a few friends and people that I've met about this. And there's one guy in particular, had a personal best the first time he tried it. He's been carp fishing for 35 years.
Good grief, and a white bait just like that.
Yeah, you know, 38 on it. Yeah.
Gee, I remember a little while ago when we were doing one of the other videos, you were desperately low on that pink coloration. Have you got any more?
Yeah, we've got this.
You've got some of it.
We've managed to source some, and it's used for cake decoration. It's totally safe, human grade stuff. And
what they make sort of girls for birthday cakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. So yeah, it's a fascinating concept. I mean, this is going to be a sort of whole world to people viewing this. I mean, the level you want to take it to, and you positively really do believe, not only in your results, but in your mind as well, that this is a further track to go down.
It's just another option, Chris, because at the end of the day, you want to have every string to your bow, don't you? You can't just sort of think that carp fishing just revolves around putting a marker out and putting a load of baits in and that. I mean, there's times when that does work better than anything else, obviously. And obviously there's a particle route to go down. But from my point of view, there was nobody doing this at one time. Bear in mind, it started 20 years ago, so I had it all to myself. Basically, you know, I monopolised it. So every water I took it on, you were the only one doing it.
Yeah.
So now, you know, I've been writing about it and talking about it. It's cottoning on, and some of the feedback I get off people that, you know, it's like a revelation. They've tried it, and they go, oh my God, you know, I've caught all these fish on it.
That's right. So it's opened the door, yeah?
Yeah, so don't be a slave to it, but it's just use it as an option. It takes nothing to put a few pots in your bag and take them with you, you know. And if it's slow.
You mentioned about particles. Just tell us a little bit about particles and your flavour ideas and stuff like that.
Well, there's one thing that I think I ought to mention. When I prepare particles, I put quite a lot of thought into it. You know, I'm always thinking about what I'm doing. And one of the key things is, I've asked people about this as well, by the way. The obvious thing to a lot of people is to soak and boil the particles, but they always seem to use tap water. Now, tap water, depending on where it's, you know, extracted from or
it is
or
different
sent from,
throughout the country.
it varies a lot, and obviously there's fluoride in a lot of it.
Yes.
And carp aren't mad on fluoride.
Right.
So if you can be bothered to take, say I get a 10-kilo bait bucket and I take lake water from the particular lake I'm fishing home, and I soak my particles in the lake water. I mean, it's taking it to extremes, but the difference is massive. You know, like when you see guys will bait up with particles, you see them spodding, what have you. Sometimes they'll sit there 2 or 3 days, nothing's occurred. I mean, not always, but just as a, you know, an example. And then they'll go, and then someone will catch a fish from somewhere around the lake, and they're crapping the particles that that particular guy's put in. But that's when they become washed out after 3 or 4 days. You must have seen it so many times, I have. And it's when they become washed out and clean. So if you're using, you know, particles that have been prepared in lake water, it's like, it's not suspect.
It makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah, I can see, it does make sense.
The difference it's made to my fishing is massive. You know, I've been doing it for a long time, and it's dead interesting. It's an obvious thing once it's mentioned, you know. Yeah, well, I mean, just before we go, the other thing we could quickly mention is salt. I always put a lot of salt in the particles. I've talked about it before, but it's like the difference is getting your Sunday dinner, if your missus does your Sunday dinner, without salt, you'd notice straight away.
I mean, when you say a lot of salt, how much salt?
Oh, I'm using, to say a kilo of dry particles, a heaped tablespoonful.
Wow.
So it's really salty.
So into tigers and anything like
everything.
that?
Yeah, the lot, everything.
Yeah. And again, you believe it makes the right edge?
Yeah, another little tip for you is I'm getting a tin of tuna fish in the sunflower oil, opening the can and squeezing all the juice from the tuna in with the salted water, and that the difference with that again is massive. It's fantastic.
I want to go fishing, folks, after all this. As I just said before, incredible. I mean, people like Frank Warwick are sort of, I don't know, they're just making the world a little bit wider in bait. And I think it's really great. I mean, again, 10 minutes has just flown by. Frank, just go over there and catch a fish now, mate, all right?
OK, Chris, no problem.
Now there's a thinking angler, and here's another one. I know he's been aching to get back in on the action. Oh, go on, Derrick, give us another tip.
As you know, I've used a big bomb. Hang on, let me rephrase that, bomb. Now, some of you might not agree that you like a big bomb. So, me being the sort of bloke I am, I've had a little word with the old Gardner people, and I've said, oi, we need a smaller bomb. So what did they do? They give me this little baby. So if you like a small bomb or a big bomb, you've got a choice. I'm just going to show you how to set it up. Although I showed it to you last time in the last video, we're going to do it again. All you do is you get a little bit of the mix. Always remember, don't fill these up too much. And you know what you don't want? A long bomb. Push down, nice and hard. Whack it out. There you go. Salted. Now then, this is the suggested carp recipe that I use. I use Vandenine carp, high pro specimen, 1 bag. Fine ground pellet, that's the carp dust. That you use half. And then you've got PV1 coolant. And I use a 1/4 bag. Knock it moist. Then all you do is just pop it in. And I microwaved these little babies last night. You want to smell the pong in my house. The wife didn't like it, but the fish do. We're going to put them together. We're going to put on the bomb. We're going to get it on with a don, and we're going to whack it out. Wow, that'll do. Bombs away. While I'm playing this fish, you know, there's one little tip for you, and that is, there's a bait out there that is really, really deadly for carp. The old faithful tiger nut. Now then, a lot of people, when they use tiger nuts, always look in the bottom of their bucket and try and sort out one of the biggest tigers. I found that if you select the smallest one, you seem to get more takes on it. If you fish that over a bed of hemp, you can normally nail quite a few fish. That'll do nicely. Oh, that's a nice fish. That's a lovely fish. Lovely little scaly one. Oh, Don's on. That'll do for me. One of the things when you're using tiger nuts that you should always remember is always make sure you soak them and you cook them well. Normally if you cook them, if you soak them, when you soak them for 24 hours. At the end of the 24 hours, pop them in the pot. When you got them in the pot, cook them for probably half an hour to 3/4 of an hour. Just leave them nice, boiling up. And also, don't overdo them. Usually when you fish tigers, a lot of people get a little bit carried away and put lots in. All you need is a couple of pouchfuls round each rod, and away you go. Top tip, get it on. Ha 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 ha. This is a lovely little one. Always make sure that you keep them well on the unhooking mat, so if they do bounce around a little bit, you know, that it don't get hurt. There you go. That was on the bomb. Get on the bomb. That's it. We'll put him back, whack it back out there and see if we can whack another one out. Ta-da! Tell your mum I love her.
2 good tips from our man, and he did catch that fish on the bait bomb he showed us. Well, after that, it's my turn again, and I just had to try my luck on St John's. And guess what? You're right, I'm in again. Now, I'm praying this might be a better fish. We've got a bit of weed here, haven't we? Now, have we got weed and no fish? No, we must have fish. Oh no, it's back there, look. That's what it went through. Fish is about another 10 yards back here from that weed. Isn't it lovely? And the sun's out today. I've managed to wear the hat today, the straw hat, the old lucky hat. I think he's off to Oxford Town Centre, this fish. Look at this. Look at this bow wave going up there. Oh, gee. Come on, surely turn. Yeah. Big roll. Well, it's giving me old cane rod a bit of a workout, this. You start hooking these bionic fish, you needn't go to the gym. We should get the controller soon. There it is. Right. Nice little plunge. Oh, it's another common, can you believe it? Good grief. Looking a bit tired now. Looking a bit tired now. I can see the water's so beautifully clear. We can see it's a common carp. Yes, and he's still not ready to give up yet. Look at this speed, wow. Over this way. Yeah, looking a bit tired now. Right. And I think he's mine, yes he is. Well, that was nice. That was caught on the method that I like the best, which of course is surface fishing. But talking of methods, let's go and see old Ron Buss, because I think he's your method man. Well, here I am with Ron Buss, the sun's shining, Ron.
It certainly is.
He's got his sunglasses on, looking very well. Now, we're here at a lovely lake here today, and we're going to talk, obviously, about bait, right, but a different sort of approach to bait, because really, I want you to tell us about the feeder, the method feeder. And to start with, because probably a lot of people don't realise, and I'm not sure if I know the full background to it, but just give us an idea how it was developed.
Well, Johnny Garden developed the method feeder. Basically, I mean, it started with ruining other people's feeders to make his own sort of design.
Right.
He actually built metal ones out of tubing and on the same shape as the Richwell method feeder. And then they came up with the plastic one.
Right.
And I mean, Bob and John, they worked, must have been about a good 6 months getting it all pucker.
Right, so getting the design.
To getting the design right.
Yeah.
And I think John had caught a few fish at Swan using it.
Yes.
And then Bob asked me if I'd like to try it at the charity carp catch. And that was its first big outing.
Oh, really? At
The
the Gardner match, yeah?
Yeah. And I mean, it speaks for itself, the success that I had over there was immense, you know.
Yeah. Well, you won, didn't you?
Well,
basically?
yeah, I did win, yeah.
Basically.
Quite convincingly.
Yeah, that's what you did. yeah, you won.
Yeah.
So, just run us, I mean, that's a little bit of background onto it now. I know it's been a successful product, and it is, obviously, these days, a big part of carp fishing, but not everybody knows how to do it. So, just sort of run us through it.
Well, it's if you're a good maker of ground bait, then you know you're best part there.
Is it best to make it too dry or too wet, or does it depend?
I like to make it so it's nice and sticky, You know,
Right.
not so as it's going to fall off in flight, obviously, but so as it sticks to the feeder.
Yes.
As it's gone down through the water, so you've just got a nice firm lump of bait round the feeder on the bottom.
Right.
And as I said earlier on, because of the 3 veins, it doesn't matter where your actual hook bait is, because the carp will turn it. And if they've only got to turn it once to expose the bait.
Right.
And
Right.
once that ball's on the bottom and it's nice and firm, they've then got to push and prod about at it.
Yeah.
I mean, the bites and the prior indication, it's a sit on your hands job, you know what I mean? Because the rod top's doing this and until you get the take.
Do you generally put the actual, say, a boilie, obviously on a short rig, actually with the rig, or do you have it hanging outside, or does it depend?
It depends. If you've got the fish really going confident, then you can leave it hanging.
Right.
But to begin with, I like to put it inside the paste towards the top of the feeder, and just smear a bit of paste over it so as it's just
So it's
pushed
only
into the
just
feeder.
covered?
It's only just covered, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, you don't want anything to mask the hook or anything like that.
Right, so what about pop-ups, bottom baits, snowmans? Will it work with all?
It works with all. I mean, I've had tremendous success just with a plain bottom bait, but I mean the pop-up it's there and it's smacking their face.
Yeah.
It's one of those
Do you often
instant things.
do you often get bothered by other fish, tench and bream? I mean, is it the carp being the dominant kind of biggest species in the lake sort of clear the rest off?
I think that's probably what happens.
Yeah, it's like a pyramid.
It's like a pyramid. You sometimes get a few tench, sometimes get a few bream,
Right.
but once they're feeding, you know full well that shortly in come the ones that count. You know what I mean?
So really, what you're going to get is a load of knocking.
That's it, yeah.
And then
suddenly it's a flyer. It's a real flyer. The bites on the method feeder are absolutely screamers because basically you're using a bolt rig because the hook link is short.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I've used it an hook link of 12, 14 inches, but then that's when I've got fish absolutely churning at it, hitting the feeder as it hits the water. You've got fish just ploughing into it, and then as the feeder's going down, they're picking off stuff that's coming off the feeder.
Yes.
So therefore, the bait is above it as it's going down, and they'll grab that bait.
Do you find any particular combination of the bait works well? Do you tend to put pellet in with ground bait, or do you like corn or maize? Or, I mean,
I use basically all pellet, but with sweet corn.
Yes.
Mixed in with it, bit of groats now and again.
Just straight sweet corn.
Just straight sweet corn out of the tin. Yeah, Sainsbury's or whatever, bless them. But yeah, and that I feel puts a little bit of colour into what's going on the bottom.
Right.
It gives them something to clock. Because apart from, I mean, I know pellet does whiten up and what have you, but it's just those little few extra flicks.
Right.
You know, a few mini boilies popped in there as well, red ones, brown ones, whatever. Because they all sort of go
so you
white.
can really individually mould it.
That's it, yeah. To whatever style you want, whatever style of ground bait you want, you can actually design it in your bucket as you're mixing it.
And of course, it's not just for small fish, is it, Ron? I mean, some big uns.
Yeah, there's been some big uns. Yeah. I've had fish to £30 on it. So
really?
you know, and out in France, John uses it in France still. Yeah. And I mean, we've both had fish out there. Big fish.
Yeah, that's right.
France,
yeah,
so.
Over £40.
Yeah,
I mean,
it.
You don't think on some of these waters where it's quite extensively used, they still probably haven't worked it out properly?
I don't think they have. No, I really don't think they have, because once you're starting to get that feed into the water, there's so much going on within the bait that it's just like particle fishing.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know really which one they're going to get hooked on, you know what I mean?
That's
that
right.
confusion state, that's it.
Clouded
it's all
up
clouding up. I mean, the corn steep liquor actually puts a big bloom into the water. Once the fish start in there whacking away, when we fished the qualifier for the Carp Championships, me and John over the other side there, Danny Fairbrass and Frank were on the opposite to us, and they were saying that when the feeder was actually hitting the water, it was just like you chucked a big load of tea in. It was brown. Yeah, it's because of the amount of corn steep liquor that we had in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a big, as you know, it's a big draw of fish.
Yeah, that's right. And they do them in various sizes. I mean, you do need kind of specialised, a bit heavier line and rods and reels and stuff like that. we'll see you in action anyway.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Using it like
Yeah.
that. Okay, that's one thing on the feeder side. Now the other thing is, I mean, you're a great fan, I know, of PVA, and in fact you've done some stirring work with bags and string as well. It doesn't seem that much different to the feeder to me. It's
Yeah,
still
it
presenting a load of bait individually around your hook bait.
Yeah.
So why?
It's the dry stuff, Chris. It's the dry stuff that you can put into the bag.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your broken boilies and seeds and all that sort of business. When you're mixing ground bait and the stuff is taking in all the corn steep liquor,
Yes.
right, it starts to soften.
Right.
But with a bag, it's hard. It's nice, hard and crunchy. And I think that's one of the reasons why the fish enjoy the bag so much. They get all that crunchiness within it. The pellet is still hard
Yes.
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And obviously,
How do you, I mean, again, just very briefly, I mean, is it, do you tend to put the hook bait inside the bag, outside?
no, I always put the hook bait inside. What I do, I have the bag with a little layer of pellets, lay the hook link in it, top it up with a few more pellets so as there's anything large can't mask the hook. I even put a piece of the locky foam.
Oh yeah.
Hook that onto the hook, then put it in. Layer of broken boilie crumb, whole boilies, and then a few bits of hard maize on top. Couple of growlers, 2 or 3 growlers, put them in there with it, you know, and it makes a right nice little parcel for them when they come through and they go, oh, look at this.
I can't tell you, folks, he's a bit of a bait freak, this one.
Oh, dreadful.
Without a doubt. He sounds absolutely tossing, yeah. I mean, I want one there on. Make me one in a minute.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, so yeah, I can see the differences there, obviously, from that point. And it's a point. It's a good point, that the crunchiness of bait, because of course it is different, because everything is sort of sloppy.
That's
well, not
it.
sloppy, but I mean, you're forming a paste in the other one as well.
That's it. That's right.
Interesting. Well, I mean, winter and summer. It's a glorious summer's day here. I mean, what about the?
Don't use a method in the winter, Chris.
I've asked the wrong question,
Yeah,
have I?
I think you have.
Oh, yeah, right.
But no, bag
You don't?
fishing in the winter.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, I cut the size of the bags right down, and I don't go into enclosed bags. I go onto open weave bags.
Right.
And it's just basically a pellet with a boilie, and the bag is hooked straight onto the hook.
Right.
And that's just so simple. It's so simple. You can put a stringer on with it as well.
Yes.
So there's 2 or 3 little bits there as well. You know,
Yeah,
just
it's
to make
really
it interesting.
thinking about,
That's
it's
right,
these little edges, you know,
Yeah.
by putting all the different kind of baits in the bag.
That's it, yeah.
Which is useful information for
That's right,
for people to have. I mean, back just briefly again on the method feeder, can you see it sort of running out of steam? No, you still reckon?
It's a blinding method.
Yeah. Yeah.
It catches carp, Chris. This is the thing, you know. There's no doubt about it. Method feeding catches carp. Bag fishing catches carp.
Yeah.
As opposed, I mean, a lot of blokes are single hook baits mad and all this sort of business. But I mean, you can chuck a single hook bait out there. There's nothing else apart from that hook bait. You're relying on that single hook bait.
Yes.
If you've got a bag on it, or you've got a feeder next to it, you've got that extra that's going to draw them into it.
Good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, he's made me feel a bit hungry talking about all this bait. Thank you very much indeed, Ron.
Bless you. Good boy.
Well, that was a splendid fish for Ron Buss. And here's another nice one, in 1812. You saw me play earlier on. A common, as you can see, just like that one that Lee caught. That was a ghost common in part 1. Well, let's go and join him now and see how he got on that Mission Impossible. Did he get another result or not?
Oh, you're back? Thought you lot had deserted me. Well, there we go. Something very, very simple. I never like sort of complicated rigs. The main thing, my main criteria with rigs is it's tangle free, and I've got nice sharp hooks, and obviously it's strong enough to land the fish I'm fishing for. But I like this snake bite stuff. It's, you know, it's lovely stuff, you know. Little ring swivel there. Safety clip so it all falls apart in the event of a break off. An anti-tangle tubing, which I always like to use. Not only does it protect your end of your main line a little bit, it also protects the fish's flank, like when you're playing a fish. Well, Mac the bailiff come and see me, and he pointed out a couple of spots in this swim at long range, about sort of 100, 110 yards out. And it's always worth taking notice of what the bailiffs say, because they're on the complex regular. They see the lads carp, you know, sort of fairly regular. Plus, got a pretty good idea. So I thought I'd try a couple of rods out there at long range, and caught a tench fairly quickly from there. So obviously something's going to feed out there. It's a bit I think it's a bit of a silty area out there, according to Matt. I must admit, I mean, to me, feeling me lead down through the water, it felt like it was a little bit shallower than the, you know, either side of it. So really, it might just be like a shallow plateau, really. Back to the Untitled swim, where the next action was going to happen again. And there we were, hooked into another ghostie. I'll tell you what, there's not many ghost carp in this lake. In fact, some of the regulars have never even caught one. There I am, second fish, and it's another ghostie. That's why I call it the Untitled swim. And I'll tell you what, I had a fair old scrap from this old fish. I mean, an absolutely screaming bite, and it tried to do me in the reeds several times. In fact, it was getting to the stage where I thought, well, I might have to take my trousers off and go in and fetch it. But no, it wasn't to be, you know. But I mean, I'd like these old ghosties. You know, people, sometimes people tend to think, no, they're not proper carp, but they are, you know, it's a bit ridiculous, really. It's just like a, you know, just like a common, really, with sort of nicer colours. Yeah, the water here was, I think it contained somewhere in the region of 300 to 350 carp, and there was 40 of these ghosties stocked. So as you can see, there's not very many of them in comparison to the mirrors and the commons and everything. But they're nice old fish. I think the biggest one that have been caught is around about 27 pounds, something like that. And I mean, the first fish I caught, that was certainly the biggest ghost carp I've ever caught. And here we are, attached to another one, which looks sort of equal sort of size. So it's quite pleasing, really. There we go. £20 plus ghostie, I think, Cliff. Well, there we go. Second one of the session. It's £20 exactly. Ooh, ooh. I reckon it's 1914. £19, 14 ounces. Well, I'm pleased with that. So things have gone a little bit quiet. I saved the tench, and along comes another one. Got a great big leech on his head he's got. Just goes to show the bad weather we had this year, how things have taken a while to wake up. All right, let's get rid of that leech off of him, because we don't like him around his mouth. Look. There we go. Little bloodsuckers. We'll send this one back on its way, and then we'll send you back to the Frimley ferret. Thank you, fish. It's lovely, isn't it?
Frimley ferret? I'm never going to live that name down, thanks to Elvin Roy. Anyway, our thanks of course go to Lee Jackson for ending his mission so successfully with another nice ghost carp. Well, it can't be bad, can it? 2 fish from a water like that, which he's never seen before. Next time, we're going to have to make it a little bit more difficult for our Lee. In fact, I've got an idea. Why don't we try and get him to catch a carp off Brighton Beach? You thought it was all over, and so did we, but it's not. He's back to talk about bait. Go on, Derrick.
I've been a consultant with mainline baits there for probably 12, 13 years from when they first started. And what impressed me with mainline was the quality of the baits that they produce. They've scoured the world for different ingredients, which are natural ingredients, which obviously are good for my catch rate. My catch rate has gone up tenfold since I've been using mainline baits. If you look over the last 12 years, some of the fish that I've caught on all the different ranges of bait that mainline make, is exceptional. I'm going to run you through some of the products that they do. First of all, I'd like to talk to you about pellet. You know, there are so many angles that you can go and catch fish with. You know, it's not just necessarily put a boilie on and whack it out. You can get fish into the swim and get the activity going. Now, we've got the new hemp pellet from Mainline, which has just come steadily throughout the winter. Down is really quite quick. They break down in sort of 5-6 minutes. You've got Assassinate pellet, which, you know, like you can use with the Assassinate boilie. You've got the Activate pellet. This is one that you can use with the Active boilie. There's nothing to stop you, you know, like putting a fish in an Activate over the top of it. You know, in there, right, is the new one, which is in some cases, when people use a high oil content in their pellet, right, it can kill the fish. You know, this is a known fact. What it does is it gets into the fish and you know, it doesn't digest. So if there's lots and lots of oil going into the water, then the fish are going to die because it just cannot get rid of it anywhere. There's been quite a few fish kills on different lakes because of this reason. One of the questions at Brentwood Angling is how much bait do you put in? When do you put it in? Well, you know, there's lots and lots of easy answers to that. You have to look at the weather to know whether or not the fish are feeding. But one thing I have found, like we did last night, when we came down there, we put in a little bit of bait, we put in some pellet, we put in some hemp, and we put different sized boilies over the top. Why do you use all these different bits and pieces when you put your bait in? The reason being that if you put the pellet down and the hemp, the smaller fish can come in and start feeding on it, you know, quite avidly. And now Mr. Carp comes round the corner and he sees loads and loads of fish upending and picking up all the small particles. And then he decides it's his turn to go in there. And then what you do is you're sitting there with the boilie fishing over the top of it, which a small fish can't eat. So it's time for you to have a fish. They come straight in over the top of it, go straight down on it, mop it up, and you've got a take. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. I walked in there last night, started throwing my bait out, and there was fish already there. What did I do? Plopped it on their barnet. As soon as I plopped it on their barnet, out they went. And there was quite a few fish there. Mistake. Shouldn't have done it. While I'm talking about pellet, here's a couple of other pellets that come from Gardner Tackle. You've got the 11mm, which I got in my lap here. This one in it, but this one is a little bit different. Have a look at them. Look just like chum mixers, but they're not. Now we go down to the nitty-gritty. Boilies. Probably the most used bait by carpenters. The density of the bait. You know, like if you've got a heavy old bait and you plop it into the silt, all right, you don't want it sinking down, you know, and you don't want it taking on too much of the silty bottom into the bait. The thing is, does size matter? I think it does. As I said before, you put all different sized boilies out there, the fish have to suck them up at all different levels instead of just coming in, just say for argument's sake, you put a 20mm boilie out into the lake. Fish coming over the top of it, they get used to picking them up. They're all the same weight. If you're using 14mm, 15mm, they weigh a little bit less. So the density of the bait, this is what we've just spoke about there. The difference in the weight enables you to fish up bait sinking down into the silt, although sometimes it is a good thing to have your bait sinking down into the silt, providing it's not the silt that you get is quite smelly. I had a lot of problem with birds. and because it sink down into the silt and the birds weren't able to see it, so they didn't keep picking me baits up, and the old crafty carp come in there and nicked them. Leakage. The way mainline put their baits together, they've got quite a high leakage off of them, which puts a shroud over the top of their bait. Any fish coming through, you know, just can't resist it. They come through, they get that waft coming off of the bait. I'm not talking the ingredients that they put that actually give it that pulling power. You know, your bait out, what you want is, you want something that is going to make them fish pick up your bait. What you want is a little bit of pulling power. You can do things like chopping them in half, you can do them, you know, like different shapes, but really you've got to have some oomph in your bait to make sure that you really pull them fish down to your bait and pick it up. You know, you can have the best rig in the world, but unless you've got something there which can actually pull them fish right down onto your bait, you know, it makes your bait look exactly the same as the other baits are sitting there. Now then, look at these little buggers. These are pop-ups that I've got in here. That's another way. You can pop the bait up or you fish it on the bottom. What I've done here, I've got a bait already in there soaking. You just take it off of the needle, pop it on, make sure you've got everything counterbalanced, you know, like the hook and everything else, and away you go. Now then, a lot of people ask me, what do you use to make a nice dip? You use a neutral dip. You can use any of the dips that are made on the market. The amounts, that's what I get asked a lot about. Now this is one of my recipes that I use in the winter months. In the winter months, I fish, so, you know, I want them fish to come and have it straight away. As you can see, you've got a nice, bright colour, there's a bit of smell. Now, if you take a neutral dip, what I do is I fill it up so that with the dip, so that it goes to the bottom of the boilie. Take your flavour, and what I do is I put 6 caps, which works out 30 ml, into the pot. You might say, that's it. As you can see there, screw it in, give it a shake. You can leave that in there as long as you want. Sometimes I leave them in there for, weeks. One of the things that Mainline do, they do a vast selection of baits that you can choose from. You know, there's so many. You got this one, extract pop-up. You know, you can do what you want to that. You can make that another flavour, just put it in the dips. You've got activate. This is one of my all-time favourites. Some of the fish I caught on that. I had one of my best seasons on that bait. What else we got here? The Grange. Oh my God, caught the amphibian first time I used that. That was a lovely bit of bait. You know, those old fish certainly do love a bit of Grange. It's good bait in the winter. You know, you can catch quite a few fish on that. Then you've got the Assassinate. One season, I had 930s and a 40 on that. You can't knock that. That's a good bait. So, as I said, some people even put, you know, like they put different flavours in it. And then you get round to, you know, just swap it around a bit so that it activate. That one, I could drink that one. I'll tell you what, it doesn't taste like it smells. That's another thing. How many times do you walk into a fishing tackle shop and actually taste, you know, the bait that you're going to use? A lot of people, you know, they don't even know what it tastes like. And then we get down to the grand finale. This new bait, this is the old glug. Oh, you smell that? Smells. Oh, that do smell. That's got a right pungent pong on that. So if you fancy a bit of pungent pong, this is going to be coming out next year. You've got to wait for this. So there we go. Ta-da.
Well, thanks, Derrick. You really did us proud. Now we're back on Orchid, and I'm with the man himself, Tim Paisley. It's a little bit noisy here. We're next to sort of country road, so you'll have to put up with the odd car going through. I've known Tim for many years, and bait, you're associated, your name, a lot of your writing is surrounded about bait. Has your philosophy changed sort of over the years?
Over the years, no. It's changed. We all change on bait because we come into carp fishing knowing about maggots and casters and bread, and suddenly you're confronted with this theory that carp can recognise the value of food, food baits. You know. And my initial reaction to Fred Wilton's incredible teachings was, what a load of rubbish. And I had the temerity to say so in print, you know, which wasn't looking back, wasn't my proudest moment, but I think it's a stage a lot of people go through in bait. How can carp know what is food?
Yes.
You know, where it's, I mean, we can't explore that here. It's an instinct, you know, carp do recognise the value of food. And all my baiting philosophy for the last 20 years, well, most of it has been based on food baits.
Right, right.
So that is, all my thinking is, I want something they will feed on, and feed on indefinitely till I catch them.
Right. Now, saying that, a lot of people think, oh, the bloke must chuck loads and loads of bait in. I mean, do you use generally a lot of bait, or has that changed over the years as well?
It changes in both directions, you know. Right. Tactically, right. we all change. It's changed a great deal with travelling abroad.
Right, right.
Because you go abroad and you've got a week to catch the fish of your dreams. You know, in this country, like the campaign I did on here, catch a fish eventually. You know, I wanted to establish my own bait.
Yes.
I didn't come in on any of the going baits. I used the Grange Red here. It was a difficult winter. Eventually, I caught a 35.5-pound miller on the 3rd of February. You know, how much of that bait that fish had eaten in that time, I don't know. But that was like we do on our home waters. You'll remember the protein days, Chris.
Absolutely.
We probably already talked about it on the video. You know, you'd go and put a pound of bait a week, you know, 2 pounds of bait or whatever, to establish your food source. Well, now you're trying to do it very quickly on waters. And we can talk about individual baits as we go along, but, you know, that is my feeling, that we've developed from what I call the slow burners, you know, that take a long, long time to develop, to baits that go on working and will work very quickly, and it's a massive, massive move forward, and it's one that Mainline started early in the 90s.
Right.
You know, and a lot of boys are doing it now. They're giving you the bait. That is the bait, not the old, oh heck, better get 10 mils of that in, 10 mils of that and whack and ruin the thing. You know, that's a bait, it'll catch fish. Don't mess it up.
Yeah. Now, you say that these baits are right and don't mess around with them because, you know, they've mimicked, you know, what the carp want. But you have changed the grains recently and you've added Robin Red. Now, why?
Well, there's 2 reasons for that. The principal one is that the Grange was a wonder bait. You know, everything recognised it, all fish recognised it.
Yes.
It caught everywhere, it caught a lot of big fish, and baits become the victims of their own success. You know, we don't know how they do it, but carp, this is food, get this down my neck, they'll eat it and eat it and eat it, and gradually they start to associate the experience of being caught with that food source.
Yes.
You know, how they then distinguish between, you know, those round balls and the other round balls, you know, that can be a bit of a mystery. But it is a result on a bait, brilliant winter bait particularly. And originally I had Robin Red put in it for winter, for winter results.
Why?
Purely and simply because I liked the Grange, it was a good winter bait, but I wanted to change the profile of it, right?
Right.
Now, when you say you changed it, this is the other point I'll make, I changed it with a food product. I changed it with a food additive. I didn't have 5 mils of flavour put in it. Right. So I wasn't actually upsetting the food profile of the bait. I was changing the food profile of the bait slightly.
Yes.
I think Grange Red is a brilliant bait for commons. You know,
really?
Oh yeah, I think it's a brilliant bait for commons, which is why I took it to Reduta. So yeah, they're the two principal reasons. One is that I wanted to change the profile of the bait. It darkened it. It added food value to me.
Yes.
It added, robin red is a big fish recognition factor in my mind. I changed it for a number of reasons. You know, old Kevin Knight didn't like it to start with because he doesn't like robin red put through his machines. You know, and he moaned like hell.
Why, is it difficult to roll, or does it make machines dirty? I'll clean them.
Red everywhere. Yeah, so, and the upshot of that was that I caught so many good comments on it, both here and abroad, that was why I decided to take it to Reduta.
Right.
You know, and that might have been the determining factor.
Who knows?
With that big fish, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, you know, things like evolve on a bait, but that was the reason for changing that particular one.
Right, okay. So here we are in 2001. Is it little strides we're looking at, or is there something round the corner, Tim, bait-wise?
There'll be things round the corner because they aren't going to go on picking up little round balls forever. You know, sooner or later some fish, and some fish already have.
Yeah.
You know, initially when the hare came in, you know, the boilers and the hare more or less came in together, turned up all sorts of fish. You could say that you probably caught 90 to 95% of the fish in the lake in that 2 or 3 years. Since that period, maybe you catch 2/3 of the fish in the lake. Now, possibly it's the association with little round balls that is deterring these other fish from feeding. Commons in particular, a very strange beast. So the move forward will be, I think, in format rather than content.
Right. So, you know, looking at the cylindrical bait, all the kind of thing, there's plenty of talk about it at the moment.
Well, the odd thing was, when the hare came out, people got so inventive. Here is something new, you know. The hare wasn't then good enough. There was a new wonder rig every other week, wasn't there?
Yes, there certainly was.
And do you remember the jelly baits and the liquid baits that they were making?
The injection ones,
pigskin, rounded pigskin, you know. But suddenly baits got so good that these things live on them. And as long as you change it or come up with something, sooner or later they're going to say, no, hang on a minute. Even in their little minds, which doesn't always seem little, but they are little minds, you know, here's food. Sooner or later it's going to say, no, that's danger, ain't going to eat it.
Right. Irrespective of rig, irrespective of baiting policies?
Well, if you ain't eating it, it doesn't matter what your baiting policy is and what your rig is. You know, the prime concern is that they pick up that bait. That's the only way you're going to catch them.
Right. Yeah, just let me ask you about this current run of big fish, Tim. I mean, is it just luck? Are you doing something different? We all want to know, what is that secret? What's happened?
When you get a run of success, it's an accumulation of things. You know that, Chris. Things drop together. But I have changed considerably in terms of bait application over the last 2 years.
Right.
I've written about this not long ago. I had a bad session at Medine. Went to Medine for 5 days. I still hadn't caught my first 40 from anywhere, and I wanted a big fish, and I blanked. The carp didn't feed particularly well, but I drove back thinking, I did that all wrong. That was hopeless, what I did, you know, fill in a swim, wait for the big fish to turn up, and I thought, well, if 40/40s had turned up, I might have had a result. But if 160 turned up, I wasn't going to, it might not get anywhere near my hook bait.
Absolutely.
So, because I'd gone global, I had to rethink this attitude to bait. So, my first reaction now when I come here or go to a water abroad is to fill in. You know, to cover that, what have I got, acre in front of me there.
Yep.
Not fill it in, but bait all over that, wherever they come into this area.
How much would that equate into sort of
I'd probably put
5
5 or 6 pounds in here.
5 or 6 pounds, right, okay.
Now, Reduta, when I went there, I started off by putting 12 kilos in. First morning I got there. You know, I got 2 or 3 acres.
That's a lot of bait.
Yeah, it is a lot of bait. And I had a run within half an hour of putting my end tackles out, you know, and it's happened elsewhere. But what I'm trying to do is mark my patch.
Yes.
Right? Because carp are like birds in the garden. You make a food they want available to them, and they'll start to turn up. You know, so this is my patch. When you want to feed, guys, come here. You know, but with 14 kilos of bait in front of you, you know, you're not going to single out fish. You're not going to get those big fish. So, after the 14 kilos or whatever, or equate it to your own number of fish in your own water. After that, you then refine it down. I have 2 here. You know. Whether it's with PVA or how much will one carp eat in one sitting.
Right.
You know, that is then my baiting situation.
Yes.
So I'll keep the bait going in over the 3 acres or the acre or whatever. Wherever they go in my patch, they're going to find my bait.
Right.
Then they find the hemp and the
Right,
high
I'm going to
butane
say,
pellets.
right, okay, so it's a mixture, not just boilies then, right?
No, the actual baiting situation is you learn what will pull big fish. You know, Hinder's mini butane pellets will.
Very good.
Hemp certainly will. I'm happy with hemp. I'm not too sure about mixed seeds, so I don't use that for the big fish. Chop baits, you know, anything to increase the pulling power of that spot, which might be as big as this little swim.
Have you any thoughts on the ground bait approach to that?
Small fish, it tends to pull small fish, you know, and it's you leave out whatever is producing small fish and go single-minded.
Right.
And if it slows the action, all well and good, which it certainly didn't do at Reduta. You know, that was, you had to wade through the sprat attack there.
Yeah.
You know, because particularly the ready-made, you know, they pulled everything in to start with. But then it's refining it down. And Cassian, it was just the same thing, that 4 dinner tables. You know, so it's not a question of, here's a big fish coming in to feed, oh heck, those doubles.
Yes.
I'm not interested, this one just got caught. You know, there's an intact patch.
Right.
You know, so that is the refinement. I'll keep that bait available, keep it available, keep it available. They come in and then there's their meal for them. You know, eat all that, guys, and I'll catch you. You know, it's working.
This little sequence is very interesting because all the way through, you've given me the impression that you're the carp. You're talking from the carp's point of view.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you can equate it to your own feeding habits. What carp do, you know, quite simply. I mean, can you eat 1 chocolate raisin?
No.
No, right. You can eat 1 orange, though.
Yes.
I want him to eat an orange, right? So I'll get him eating chocolate raisins. then he might eat that orange. It's just, I do realise a lot of my thinking, try and think like a carp, which is, I mean, Rod in the old days, wasn't it, with carp on the ceiling in his digs at Cardiff.
Really?
Crawling around the floor, picking up hemp, How do carp feed? That's right. You've got to try and get inside the carp's head. Yeah. What happens when he comes on this patch? You know, which way is he coming from? Where's he going to feed? What are the 4 best feeding spots? You know, so you go to a water abroad, you've got to sort all that out within a day or 2.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah, in this country, I've got overhead shots of here. You know, I've got all the results of where all the carp have caught from. You can build up a picture somewhere in England. You can't over there. You just got to go. I did a piece for NutriBaits News called Right Here Now, Right Now, and that's how I look on it. You walk on that water, I've got to catch that big thing right here, right now, in the next 2 weeks or a week or whatever. You know, and all your thinking has got to channel down to that.
But also, you must have an incredible belief in what you can do.
Well, the beliefs come from the bait, you know, which these boys have made available to us. You know, I mean, it started with the mainline dedicated baits.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot, bless them, there's a lot of boys doing it now. The new Richworth one,
yes.
The new NutriBaits one, Trigger, which I've got a colossal belief in, Hutch's Addiction.
Yes.
You know, all these are veering away from that. Here's the flavour, here's the base mix.
Right.
You know, because we all know if you tell them 5 mils, they put 10 in.
Yes.
You know, and louse it up. That's the bait, and I've got colossal belief. They've done their homework, all these lads, and credit to them. And the carp will eat that bait indefinitely. I know that. They'll go on eating it till I catch them.
Right, well, if Tim can catch one, we'll see. I'm sure he can. Thank you very much indeed, Tim.
You're welcome. Following day from the video shoot, and had a couple of fish in the night. I made a comment earlier in the video, and Chris threw an unexpected question at me about ground baits, and I sort of dismissed them as a small fish method. I was thinking of sort of basic hemp powdered ground baits, that sort of thing, which tend to produce big bags of sort of smaller fish, doubles and so on, low 20s. There are some very sophisticated ground baiting situations now, which are accounting for some big fish. So I don't want anyone to be offended by my dismissal of ground baits as a small fish method. They can account for big fish, but the ground baits that have been available until recently, I've tended to look on as a sort of smaller carp method, just to put the record straight.
Thanks go to all those concerned in making this video, but I'm afraid it's the end. I hope you've enjoyed them half as much as I have presenting them, and that we've given you enough fresh ideas and something to ponder on both rigs and bait, which make up that wonderful world of carp fishing. And finally, there's one other thing I'll leave you with. No matter how good your rigs and bait, ultimately it's the thinking angler that will always do best. Use the ideas shown in these 2 videos, but think about how to use them and why. See you in the next series. Good fishing!